I think you can see the screen now. Can anyone of you confirm? Yes. Okay. So today we are going to talk about what is the .NET framework, what are the different components of .NET framework, and how it is used in developing and deploying a project in C# programming language, right? Okay. So we have seen that .NET framework is a technology that supports building and running the next generation of applications, and all the web services can also be developed using .NET framework. Now when you take .NET framework, the .NET framework is designed to fulfill these objectives. One, you want to provide the object-oriented programming environment. When I say consistent object-oriented programming environment, it is a fully object-oriented programming we have already discussed, and in any data, any value that you want to provide or any function that you want to provide in the .NET environment must be included in the object-oriented approach. So whether you want to have the object code stored and executed locally or executed locally but internet distributed or executed remotely, for all these things it is going to provide you the object-oriented programming environment. And not only that, it is also used to build all the communication on industry standards to ensure that code based on the .NET framework can integrate with any other code. So we have seen that C# is having interoperability. So you can have a C++ program that can communicate with a .NET program, or you can have a Java program which can communicate with your .NET program. So you can integrate it with any other code, irrespective of whether it is a C++ programming language or it is going to be a Java programming language. So the interoperable facility is also available in C# programming language. So that helps in building the communication on industry standard, so that all the code based on the .NET framework can be easily integrated with any other code. Now when you take your .NET programming, it is a software framework for developing web services, and it is also used for integrating presentation, component, data technologies on a single platform. So when I say presentation here, you can have different user interfaces. That is what you mean by the presentation. I can have a very appealing user interfaces, whether you want to have it in a window based application program or you want to have it in the web based application program. In both the cases you can have a very appealing user interfaces. That is what you call as the presentation. And different components, we have already seen .NET environment helps you in building the component oriented programming. When I say component oriented programming, you might have already developed a component, say for example a login page. You have already developed a component for a login page. This component can be used in any other application that you are going to develop. So I need not rewrite the code. Instead you just take that particular component in as a library and integrate it in your application. This is also available in your .NET environment. And we all know that C# programming is exclusively designed by the Microsoft people for the .NET platform. And .NET library functionalities are having these three things. One, it is having all the utility features which are written in .NET. And you have wrappers around Windows functionalities also available. When I say wrappers, you have lots of library components that are available which can be easily wrapped in your .NET environment. And not only that, since it is developed by the Microsoft people, obviously all the wrappers can be included in your Windows platform very easily. Then it also provides another very important component which you call as CLR, which is nothing but Common Language Runtime. So this is a .NET framework runtime environment. We will be discussing how this CLR helps in developing or compiling, or let me put it this way, how the CLR helps you in building a particular component as a library or as an executable code. So these are the things that we have to understand in .NET environment. And your .NET environment includes these three important technologies. One is the presentation, the other one is the component, and the third one is the data facility, data communication facility. So these three facilities or the technologies are combined together, and it is produced in one environment which you call as the .NET Framework environment. Now, when you take your Microsoft .NET environment, there are three key approaches available in your .NET environment. One, you have a .NET platform. The second one, you have products as well as lots of services are also available in .NET. And the third one, apart from the available local products and services of .NET, we have other third-party services can also be integrated in your .NET environment. So when you take the .NET platform, the .NET platform gives you or produces lots of infrastructure and tools, and you have better building blocks are also available in the platform, and you have lots of other softwares being integrated. Now when I say lots of other softwares being integrated, using the .NET environment, you can develop a Visual Basic, you can develop a Visual Basic environment, or you can develop an application using Visual Basic programming language, or you can use the same environment to develop a C# programming language also, or you can use the same environment for developing a Java programming. You can use the same environment for developing the C++ also. So you can have all these kind of facilities available in your .NET platform. Now apart from that, we have lots of products and services also available in your Microsoft .NET. One is your Windows .NET environment. Your Office package .NET is also available, because say Microsoft is having Microsoft Access, Office Suite as one of the database environment. Apart from that, you have Microsoft SQL also available as a backend environment for producing a project. So all these things are available in your Microsoft .NET. Apart from that, we have Visual Studio .NET environment, which helps you in developing as well as deploying a particular application. So apart from the platform as well as the services and products, we can also avail third-party .NET services, which will help you in integrating your application with other components also. So these are the three approaches that are available in our .NET environment. You have platform, you have lots of products and services, and you can integrate lots of third-party .NET services also. Right. So this is one very simple architecture you see in the diagram. We said there are three technologies available in .NET. What are they? Presentation, components as well as data. So the first layer, this yellow layer, that says you can have a very appealing presentation for your application. When I say appealing presentation, it is completely depending on what kind of interfaces, user interfaces. When I say user interfaces, the end user interfaces are available. So these are some of the user interface components. Apart from these components, you have process components also. So say for example, when I say component, you can recollect the process that we have done with our text box, radio button, or your check boxes. All these components are available. Apart from these components, you have process components also. Say your validation control is a best example for the process component. We have already done a demo program that shows you how the user interface components are used in the web application. Along with these components, how do you use your what do you call the validation controls? They are called as process components. So these are used in the same web application itself. So for the interfaces, you have the presentation layer, and the second layer here is your component layer. What are the different components that are available? So you have lots of business workflows, business components, business entities. All these things are nothing but your web application as well as Windows application or your console based application program that you are going to develop. So all the facilities are available for you to develop any kind of component. When I say component, one thing that you have to understand here, it is not only developing applications like Windows or web application, it is also developing lots of components which will be in the DLL format, which you call as a library component. So apart from your executable code, I can develop some library components so that you can upload it as a library, which can be reused in any of the application that you are going to develop in future. The third layer of your .NET technology is your data connectivity. We have already seen how the ADO.NET helps you in developing a database application program. Apart from that, you have lots of web service gateways are also available, which can be integrated for different web services, right? So these are the three important technologies that are used in your .NET environment. So the end users will be directly communicating with the user interfaces, and the user interfaces will communicate with the kind of applications that you are going to develop or with the kind of components that you are going to develop. And these components and applications will be communicating to your data connectivity, which will be done by the ADO.NET or the kind of web services that you are going to develop. And all the data access components will be communicating with various data resources available. In the same way, the service gateways can easily communicate with different kinds of services that can be integrated with your application, right? So this is a very basic idea of how .NET framework technologies are connected with each other. How do they communicate with each other? Now, when you take the components, we were talking about like lots of components can be developed using .NET environment. So this is the generations of components that was introduced by the Microsoft people. So they have started with the OLE technologies, which is nothing but object linking and embedding. You call it as object linking and embedding. Please make a note of it. OLE is the first technology which was introduced by the Microsoft people as a component model. So what they have done when we were doing the Visual Basic project, which was the first user interface application program that was released by the Microsoft people, what they have done, they have created different objects, and these objects can be integrated with my application. When I execute my application, this object libraries will be linked to my application and it will get executed. So that was the first generation component model introduced by the Microsoft. Then they have started introducing the COM technology. COM is nothing but C for component object model. COM, component object model. So what they have done, any service or any kind of processing, they have designed it as an object, and this object will be taken as a component in different applications. So that is what you call as component object model. Say when you create a web page, your web page itself can be considered as a component. Or when you create one particular user interface, that can be called as a component. Say your text box can be called as a component, or your radio button can be called as a component, or the container. Suppose, say for example, you want to have a container for different components, user interfaces of your web application, then the container can be called as a component. So these things can also be introduced in your COM technology. And after the COM technology only, they have introduced the .NET technology. It is a binary code mechanism which is replaced with Microsoft Intermediate Language, MSIL. That is why we say .NET is platform independent. As you say, Java is a platform independent programming language, .NET is also a platform independent one. Why? Because your .NET environment, when you are going to compile your application, it is not going to generate a native code of that particular machine. When I say native code, suppose if you are going to let me say compile your code in a Intel platform, then the code for the Intel platform will be generated as the executable code. Or if you are going to compile your program in a AMD machine, then your executable code will be for the AMD machine. But what happens here, instead of generating the native code, the .NET technology will be generating a Microsoft Intermediate Language code, which will be a platform independent one. So when I want to run my application in Intel machine, you can take your Microsoft Intermediate Language code and you run it in the Intel machine. Now the same code can also be taken to a AMD machine and there it can be executed. So that is why we call it as a platform independent language, and it also contains metadata. We'll be discussing what is a metadata, which will be a cross-language integration also. So to help the interoperability of the .NET environment, Microsoft Intermediate Language is playing the key role. Just because I have independent platform, independent code available with me, I can integrate it with any programming language. So this is the generation of component model that was introduced in the .NET environment. So in general, I can say .NET Framework is a technology that supports building and running the next generation of applications and XML web services. One, your .NET environment provide a code execution environment which will minimize the software deployment and versioning, because we have ourselves experienced in our Visual Studio. You can easily execute a program, you can easily deploy that particular program also. So your .NET environment provides a code execution environment which minimizes software deployment and versioning conflicts. And it promotes safe execution of code. Safe, it is type safe. One of the very important characteristics of C# we have seen, it is a type safe. Because when you use your pointers, in your program, it becomes an unsafe code. The unsafe code can be easily identified in your C# programming. So it promotes safe execution of code, and it includes code created by an unknown or semi-trusted third party, which will be generally having pointers so that you can directly touch the sensitive parts of the computer. And it also eliminates the performance problems of scripted or interpreted environments also. And not only that, your .NET environment make the developer experience consistent across widely varying types of applications, such as window-based application as well as web-based application. We have already seen how .NET can be used for developing a console-based application, how the same environment can be used for developing a window-based application, which is a standalone application, or the same environment can be used for creating a web-based application which can be deployed in a web server. So three different environment can be easily developed using your .NET environment. And you can build all communication on industry standards to ensure that code based on the .NET framework can integrate with any other code because of its interoperable characteristic. Now, when you take your .NET environment, these are the different components introduced in the .NET framework. So this is the base .NET framework. In this diagram you can see 2.0 is the base version of .NET framework environment. You have a common language runtime. You have the FCL, which you call as framework class library. Along with that I have window form, then I have ASP.NET as well as ADO.NET. So these are the base components that are available in the 2.0 version. When they have started introducing or releasing the other versions, they have introduced new features like link facility is also available. Then you have parallel library. For parallel processing you have some parallel library available. Then you have lots of user interfaces. Runtime user interfaces can also be developed in the 4.5 version, etc. But what we are going to use here currently will be only these three components. We will be discussing all these components later in our advanced .NET environment. So this can be called as the .NET framework architecture, which is a base architecture. So what you see here in this green and blue color is the one which you are seeing here. Okay, so this environment you can see whatever you have seen here, these three in the .NET framework 2.0 version, that is what is expanded here. So you have at the bottommost layer we have the common language runtime, and above the common language runtime we have the base class libraries, which you call as FCL, framework class libraries. Then you have the data connectivity, which will be established using ADO.NET. Then you have ASP.NET. Already we have discussed all these components. All these components you have experienced in your programming also. So please recollect all those points. The window form also we have created. Web application we have created. We have seen how ADO.NET can be used for establishing a database connection. All these things we have already experienced. Then in between you can see one more component available here, which is common language specification. Then you have all the programming languages available here. So the entire set of components are available in your Visual Studio.NET. So your Visual Studio.NET is an integrated development environment, IDE. You call it as IDE, integrated development environment, that gives all these components in a single platform. So these basic components which we have seen here, the common language runtime. So you have the common language runtime. Then you have the base class libraries, which is your framework class libraries here. Then you have your ADO.NET, your ADO.NET or XML library. Then above that you have all these window form as well as the web form, which will be given here in the .NET application. So above that we have this common language specification, and remember the common language specification is exclusively used when you are going to have the interoperable facility. Only when you combine a Visual Basic component with the C# component, the CLS will play a role. Otherwise you are not going to have any common language specification being used here. So when you have two different programming languages, because when you take your Visual Basic, the integer data will be defined as integer, whereas when you take your C# programming language, your integer data will be defined as int. So if a data here is represented as integer, whereas on the other hand in C# you represent it as int, you need someone to say that both are same. So that is the role played by common language specification, CLS. Okay, so let us see all these components one by one. So first let us see what is framework class library. We have seen all these class libraries. whatever namespaces we are using in our program. We have seen how to use the namespace. Every time when you want to have a particular library, you will specify using system dot something. So that is what you call as the namespace, and inside that namespace we have all these class libraries available. So your .NET framework provides huge set of framework class libraries for common as well as for the usual tasks that we have already seen, for all your input output environment and for all the kind of mathematical processing, and whatever processing or additional libraries are required in your program, we have included the corresponding namespaces. In the same way, your FCL contains thousands of classes to provide the access to all the application programming interfaces as well as the common functions. We have seen all these things: string manipulation, common data structures, input output, streams, and if you want to have threads, network programming, Windows programming, web programming, or any kind of data access, for all these things you have to include the corresponding namespace, which you call as the framework class library. And it is simply the largest standard library which is shipped with any development environment. So this is the first library which is having large number of objects. Let me put it this way: large number of objects or large number of classes that is specified in a particular development environment. And this library follow extremely efficient object-oriented design. Obviously, your .NET and C# is a fully object-oriented programming. So all the library components must be an object-oriented designed one, and so that it makes their access and use very simple and predictable. And classes in the framework class library in your program, just as you use any other class, and can even apply inheritance and polymorphism on these library components. And the second important component in your .NET environment is your common language runtime. So your common language runtime is the very important part of your .NET framework, and it is also known as .NET runtime. And it is a framework layer that resides above the operating system. We have seen it here. So your common language runtime resides above the operating system. Whatever operating system you are going to use, it doesn't matter. Irrespective of the operating system, your common language runtime will be residing above the operating system. And this is the one that handles and manages the execution of your .NET application. Please underline, your CLR is the one which handles and manages the execution of the .NET application. So without common language runtime, you cannot manage the execution environment of your .NET application. And not only that, our .NET programs will not directly communicate with the operating system, but it will be communicating only through the common language runtime. And this is very important. See, all the earlier diagrams, this particular diagram or this diagram, this shows only the .NET architecture, whereas this particular slide shows you what is the execution model followed by your common language runtime. What is the execution model followed by the common language runtime? You can see here you have the source code, right? So these are the different source codes available. You can have Visual Basic, C# or C++. Then you have the compilers. These are the compilers. And you have lots of assembly codes here. Just observe the diagram. I am just talking about the different components of these CLR environment. Then you have the common language runtime here. Inside the common language runtime, I have JIT, just in time. JIT is nothing but just in time. Then you have native code. Then you have all the operating system services. And apart from that, you have one other component which is also known as unmanaged component. So what happens here? The source code will be compiled. Obviously, you need to compile them because they are all in high level languages. So you need to compile. So you need a compiler specific for Visual Basic, compiler specific for C#, compiler specific for C++. Specific for C++, and it is specific for C# and it is specific for Visual Basic also. Now what happens when I am going to compile a Visual Basic code? It is going to generate an intermediate language code, IL, intermediate language code. This is what I call as an assembly of my application. So whatever application you are going to develop, whether it is web application or Windows application, it will be developing an intermediate language code. That intermediate language code is the one which I call as the assembly of my application. And this is another assembly which I can develop if I am having a C# programming language. Or when I have C++ compiler, that will be developing a intermediate language code which I call as the C++ assembly for my application. Fine. Now you can observe here, all these are the .NET compliant compiler. These compilers are .NET compliant compiler. That is why these intermediate language codes are called as managed code, because they are all intermediate language. They are not native code. They are not specific to a particular machine. So I call it as the managed code. But at the same time, you can see here another one, I call it as an unmanaged component. If I have a compiler which is not a .NET compliant, it is not going to generate an intermediate language code. Instead, it will be generating a unmanaged code. Why? Because it is going to be specific to a particular machine. So this unmanaged code can be directly given to the operating system for execution, whereas the intermediate language code cannot be given directly to the operating system. Instead, it must be given to the common language runtime. So what the common language runtime will do now? It will be invoking a just-in-time compiler. It will be invoking a just-in-time compiler, and the just-in-time compiler will translate your intermediate language code into the native code. So that is the role of JIT. Sometimes they are also called as jitters. You call the JIT compiler as jitter. So what is the role of jitter here? The intermediate language code will be converted into an executable code, or put it this way, into a machine code which is specific to that particular machine. So if you are running your application in AMD machine, then it becomes the native code for AMD machine. If you are going to use your CLR in a Intel machine, then the native code will be specific for the Intel machine. So who will be creating the executable code here? The jitters or the JIT compiler will take the assemblies, and these assemblies will be converted into a machine code or the native code for the specific machines, for the specific machine in which you are running the .NET application. And this native code is the one which will be interacting with the operating system for the services. So this is the very brief idea about the CLR execution model. So this is one of the very important concept you have to understand. Any source code will be compiled by a .NET compliant compiler. I use the term .NET compliant compiler because the .NET compliant compiler will be generating the assembly which you call as the managed code, and these assemblies are nothing but your Microsoft Intermediate Language code, which will be given to the Common Language Runtime, and the Common Language Runtime invokes a jitter, and the jitter will translate the IL code into the machine code or the native code, which will be executed by your operating system. So this is a very brief idea about how the execution happens in a .NET environment. So this is another diagrammatic representation. You have the different languages available, and for each language you need a particular compiler, and all these compilers will be generating an intermediate language code, which will be in Microsoft Intermediate Language, which will be a platform independent, or you call it as platform neutral language code, and this code will be given to the Common Language Runtime, which will be translating it into the machine code in zeros and ones. So this is your intermediate code. Intermediate code is nothing but Microsoft Intermediate Language, and when we compile our .NET program using any .NET compliant language like C#, VB, C++, it does not get converted into the executable binary code, but to an intermediate code which is known as a Microsoft Intermediate Language, which will be understandable by the Common Language Runtime. And your MSIL is an operating system and hardware independent code, or you call it as platform independent. So when I say platform, remember the platform is the operating system as well as the hardware components. Okay. So when the program needs to be executed, this MSIL or intermediate code is converted to binary executable code, which is called as a native code. And the presence of intermediate language makes it possible the cross-language relationship, as all the .NET compliant language produce the similar standard intermediate language code. And we have also seen the jitters are the one which will help you in creating the machine code. So when our intermediate language compiled code needs to be executed, your CLR invokes the jitter, right? Your just-in-time compiler. So the just-in-time compiler is the one which will be developing your machine code or the native code. So part of the code that is not used by a particular run is not converted to a native code. That is the advantage here. So whichever part of your program needs to be converted, only these will be converted into the machine code. So if some intermediate language code is converted to native code, then the next time when it's needed to be used, the CLR uses the same copy without recompiling. And if a program runs for some time, then it won't have any just-in-time performance penalty. And you can see here the jitters knows the exact current state of executable code. They can also optimize the code by inlining small function calls. So these are some of the things that you can further explore, like how the jitters helps in the performance optimization of your .NET environment. And although Microsoft stated that C# and .NET are not competing with languages like C++ in efficiency or speed of execution, jitters can make the code even faster than C++ code in some cases when the program is run over extended period of time. So this is the advantage of using the just-in-time compilers. Okay, and remember your just-in-time compilers is the one which will be help you in creating a .exe file or a .dll file. So if it is a .exe file, it becomes an executable application. If it is going to be a .dll file, it becomes a component which can be integrated with any of your application, right? Now another component we have seen here, which is your common language specification. So your .NET compliant language states that all the .NET compliant languages can make use of CLR as well as your framework class library because of your common language specification, which we have already seen. and your Microsoft has released a small set of specification that each language should meet to qualify as .NET compliant language. So when I say C# is a .NET compliant language, the Microsoft standard specification must be there in C#. Then you can say it is a .NET compliant language. The same way, if I want to say Visual Basic is a .NET compliant language, it has to follow all the standards and specifications given by the Microsoft. Only then you can say it is a .NET compliant language. And not only that, your common language specification is the one which will lay the standards, and if you keep your code within this boundary, within the common language specification boundary, then you can say it is guaranteed to be usable in any other .NET language. So this is the advantage of using common language specification. So if your language, if your programming language follows or compliant to this particular standard, then it can be used in your .NET environment. And another component in your .NET environment is your common type system. Your .NET also defines common type system, something like your common language specification. This is also a set of standards, and it is defining the standard for the data types alone. Only for the data type the standard is defined, and common language specification defines the standard for the entire structure of your programming language, whereas type system specifies the standard for your basic data type. Okay, so this makes it possible for two languages to communicate. So because of this only, you can have the interoperability, which we have already discussed. The common type system helps in C# communicating with Visual Basic, or Visual Basic communicating with C#. Then you have garbage collector. The garbage collector is available in your common language runtime itself, which will run in a low priority thread and checks for unreferenced dynamically allocated memory space. We have already seen what is the role of garbage collector. So garbage collector is the one which is used for freeing some unused memory, and whenever our data becomes out of scope, automatically the memory space used by that particular data must be reclaimed, for which we use the garbage collector. So we have a very powerful garbage collector available in our .NET environment. So the presence of standard garbage collector frees the programmer from keeping track of all the dangling data. So a programmer, if you are going to write C program or C++ program, the programmer needs to keep track the data, unused data. What are the data that are not used for the current situation? Those data space must be freed explicitly by the programmer, but that is not required in the case of C# programming, or let me put it this way, in the .NET environment. Okay, so we have also seen the managed code is the one which will be generated by used in the CLR. It is responsible for managing the execution of C# code, and if the code satisfies the CLR at runtime in order to execute, is called as a managed code, and the .NET compatible compilers will be always generating the managed code. So that is what we have seen in the diagram. The .NET compatible or compliant compilers will be generating the managed code, which you call as the intermediate language, and this intermediate language code is converted to machine code by the jitters. Okay. So let us stop here.